This is lesson 10.6, secants, tangents, and angle measures. A secant is any line or ray that intersects a circle at exactly 2 points. So this right here would be a secant. This right here, line K, would also be a secant, as well as J. So when two secants intersect inside of a circle, the angles formed are related to the arcs they intercept. So that relationship, if I were to add this arc plus this arc and divide it by 2, then I would get the angle right here, that measurement. And so if I went the other direction, if I added this blue arc plus this blue arc and divided that sum of the two arcs by 2, then I get the angle right there, number 2. So if I were to find angle X, I would add 88 and 76 and divide it by 2, kind of like finding the average. And I'm going to get angle X, which in this case is going to be 82 degrees. So what if, though, I want to find the angle next to it? Well, we can still find this one, which has to do with these two, and then we can know the one next to it because they're supplementary. They form a line together. So I would go ahead and do 96 plus 62 and divide it by 2 to get this angle VZW. And that is going to give me 79 degrees right here. And then I would just go ahead and do 180 minus 79, and that's going to give me 101 degrees for angle X. So working backwards also can happen, where we know that we would take this arc plus this arc, X plus 25, and divide it by 2, and together that's going to equal the 60 degrees right there. So working backwards, undoing division with multiplication of 2, X plus 25 is equal to 120, and then just subtract your 25. So we know that the arc JK's measure is going to be 95 degrees. So I want you to go ahead and do this last example. You're going to add up the two arcs and divide by 2 to get BEC, this angle right here, and then you're going to do what we did up here to find the one next to it. So that angle right here, BEC, is 82 degrees, and we add 92 and 72 and divide it by 2. And if that one's 82, then we go ahead and do 180 minus the 82 to figure out what X is, which would be 98 degrees. So we kind of saw when we had our 8.5 lesson, or no, actually it was the one before that. It would have been 8.4, the inscribed angles, where we had kind of something like this, and this angle was half of this arc. So we kind of have that same thing with some secants and tangents meeting up here. Whatever that arc is, the angle is going to be half of the arc when it's on kind of that circle there, where a secant and tangent are meeting. So if we look at this one, we know that this whole thing is 250. So what is this angle QPS? It's going to be half of that, which would be 125. This one we would want to find, actually let's figure out what angle or what arc, BCD. So BCD. So this one right here is actually the rest of the circle. So let's go ahead and figure out what this arc is. We're going to go ahead and double that. So that's 216. And then the whole circle being 360, we would subtract the 216 to figure out what this arc is, which would be 144 degrees. So making sure we kind of pay attention to what they're asking. It's not always what we think it might be. We also can have two secants and a secant and a tangent, or two tangents intersecting, and we can have some arc measures here where we're going to use subtraction this time instead of addition when it's inside. When it's outside, we use that subtraction. So we're going to take the bigger, that's this one, and subtract the smaller, and then cut it in half, and that's going to give us this angle right here. So subtract the arcs, big minus small, and then cut in half to get the angle measure. So big minus small, and then cut it in half, and you're going to get X. So big minus small, cut it in half, and that's going to give you your angle measure, which in this case is X. So the big one is 170, the small arc is 72, and we're going to cut that after we subtract in half and get X. So that's going to be half of 98, which is going to give us 49 degrees. Now this one, it looks like we're going to have to work kind of backwards. We have the big minus the small divided by 2 equals your angle, which we know is 62. So big is 141 minus the small arc we don't have, so we can leave that as S or X, whatever, or arc BC, whatever you want to leave it as, divided by 2 is equal to 62. So we're going to work backwards, and we're going to multiply by 2, undo that division. So 141 minus BC is equal to 124. Subtracting 141, we have negative arc BC is equal to negative 17, which when we divide both sides by that negative 1, then we get arc BC is 17 degrees. So on this one, I want you to try and set that up. Again, big arc minus small arc divided by 2 is going to equal our 25. And then we're going to go through and solve that. All right, so 110 minus X over 2 is equal to 25, that angle. Then we're going to multiply both sides by 2 to undo this division. So 110 minus X is equal to 50. Subtract 110. Negative X is equal to negative 60, which means X is equal to 60 degrees. And then there's a recap. When we are on the circle, we are just half the measure of what's opposite. When we are inside, we add the 2 and then divide by a half to get the angle measure. When we're outside, we take that big arc minus the small arc and we cut it in half.